He said he was going to be a little bit more subdued, but he essentially, on several points, without using the word, called Donald Trump un-American. He said he was whining about saying the election is rigged before the results. He said that was just undemocratic. It's not the way we do it in our system. And he said he was essentially out of bounds against democratic values, Republican values, and American values when it comes to his handling of Vladimir Putin. It was a little more subdued, but I think he made his point.
Yeah, I don't think it was particularly subtle, actually. And I think what you heard is a lot of different arguments that he's been making over time, all encapsulated into one place. I was struck by something that Obama said about the quit whining and essentially go make your case to the voters. We are ultimately seeing Trump sort of ceding the field and declining to run a campaign. It isn't even about a conventional campaign anymore. It's any kind of a campaign that would make any logical sense, and instead is complaining that the entire thing is rigged against him, particularly on the media bias front. I think that has become a little tedious. This is a person who is seizing on hacked emails from his opponent. We've not seen emails hacked from his campaign. We haven't seen text messages hacked from his campaign. You're going to see a lot of the same kind of conversations because Trump knows better than anybody the way this all works, and he used it masterfully for a year and is now complaining.
This is about laying the ground for an eventual loss, finding scapegoats, the media, the so-called rigged election, Paul Ryan, anybody but himself, trying to find any rationale, any excuse for why he's having trouble in this campaign other than looking inward at his own behavior and his own comments. The president today, though, while tough, I think was basically waving a flag at the bull. You know, Obama playing the role of the matador. Please, please, Trump, take my bait. Come, you know, tangle with me for a couple of days, take your eye off the ball, and attack a sitting president who is now about 50% in the approval ratings, and stop going after Hillary.
He's in the steps from the Oval Office there in the Rose Garden. It's a solemn place at the White House. Again, Renzi has been open in his support of Hillary Clinton. He didn't say much there about Trump. He said the people in Italy are more worried about November 8th than their own referendum coming up. But for the president, MJ, there's a debate tomorrow night. The president knows it. Twice he said he's whining. He also said that, you know, somebody who whines like that isn't strong enough, isn't a good enough leader to take this job, and pointed back at the White House. To Jonathan's point, he's trying to bait him.
Yeah, and Hillary Clinton should really hope for one more state visit before Election Day. There is no person who can deliver this message that Trump simply isn't ready to be president than the current president. And I think there's something even more powerful, you know, forget the battleground states, when he's standing behind the podium, behind the seal, the president of the United States, in the Rose Garden, essentially saying this is a guy who's whining and behaving in a way that's completely unprecedented. I don't know that there's a better messenger and a better setting in which the president can make that case for Clinton.
93 days left. How important is the Obama factor?
Oh, it's hugely important.
93 days in his presidency, only 21 to the election.
It depends on which Obama you're talking about, right? The Michelle Obama, extremely important on the campaign trail. But no, President Obama, I think, makes an interesting point. I mean, MJ is exactly right. The character and fitness test that Hillary Clinton has been trying to pound home for weeks now, and in every debate, saying he doesn't have the temperament to be president of the United States. Essentially, the president of the United States just delivered the same message. And to the extent that he brings that message home again and again and again on a spectacularly important platform, like standing in front of the White House, it's devastating.
To the media bias argument you made, that's Donald Trump's voice on that Access Hollywood tape that has turned the campaign in many ways. That's his voice. No media person created his voice there. To the point the president was making about Trump whining, the campaign has turned since that tape came out. Some other developments. Listen here. This is the sitting president of the United States. Again, he has 93 days left. He knows the election is 3 weeks from today. He knows Donald Trump's brand is strength and leadership. The president goes right at it.
I have never seen in my lifetime or in modern political history any presidential candidate trying to discredit the elections and the election process before votes have even taken place. It's unprecedented. You start whining before the game's even over? If whenever things are going badly for you and you lose, you start blaming somebody else, then you don't have what it takes to be in this job.
again, not subtle, to your point. But as we were talking about this while the president was speaking, he's mocking Trump and trying to bait Trump. But he's also going directly at the Republican Party because he's saying there's no evidence of this fraud. And some of you are supporting Donald Trump as he says our elections are rigged. You know, it's happening now, Donald Trump says. Frankly, that's just BS. It doesn't exist. There's no such proof. There's no facts to show that. Is there minor election fraud? Sure. 20 people voting here who shouldn't, 30 people voting there who shouldn't. But to change a presidential election? And the president was saying, you know, a lot of Republican governors and Secretary of States out there, Mr. Trump.
Well, I mean, Jonathan and one of our colleagues, Alex Burns, made that very point over the weekend in a story. I think what you're starting to see is, and I heard concerns about this from Republican election lawyers when Trump first started doing this vote fraud claim in August, again, when he was at a low point in the polls. There's a concern among Republicans that if Republicans win tight races as Senate contests, let's say the Ohio race, if that one is close, and Rob Portman barely wins, is it helpful to have the standard bearer out there saying, but there's fraud, this isn't all valid, none of this is valid? No. That's very, very concerning to people. So you had Marco Rubio, for instance, in his own debate last night say there's no evidence this is rigged and we should stop talking about it. I think the question, and you're seeing Obama pushing on that, is whether he can cleave off more Republicans to further isolate Trump.
Also very tough on Putin, essentially saying that, you know, Putin's invaded Georgia before I came into office. Then he's meddling in Ukraine. He's doing things in Syria that aren't helpful. Democrats and Republicans say this is inconsistent with American values. Again, he didn't use the term, but essentially saying Trump is un-American.
And how different is his rhetoric towards Putin now versus that hot mic moment a few years ago when he was talking about transmitting a very different message to the Russian president? It's striking. Obama, John, is not just hoping to beat Donald Trump. He wants to humiliate the Republican Party for what he thinks is the enabling of somebody who was patently unfit for the office. When he was talking about Putin in that answer, it was not about Trump. It was about these hawkish Republicans who were haranguing him for the last 7 years about being too soft on Moscow and are now standing next to somebody who is constantly trying to sort of reach out and stroke Putin. So I think Obama really wants to use the final weeks of the election to make the Republican Party pay a price for standing by somebody that Obama thinks, deep down in their hearts, they know he should be president.